very much.
Michael, we'll let you start by giving us a little bit of a background. We still have students coming in the door, but give us a little bit of a background about your experience and your work with post-traumatic stress.
All right, thank you, and greetings from West Bend, Wisconsin. The first thing I'd like to do, I see the Harvard shirt there, and I see a University of Wyoming shirt there. So just to keep up the tradition for you guys a little bit, I'll let the students pass. I was saying I see the Harvard shirt, I see the USC, I see Wyoming, so just in the spirit of things, I'll put on my Duke shirt.
But I thought you were from Wisconsin.
My brother-in-law is a professor of physics at Duke, and I go to a lot of their games and a lot of their activities.
That's amazing.
So you're now from Duke. I'm honored to be here to speak about this topic, and it's interesting that you guys would take it up as a topic of interest, because among your contemporaries who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Persian Gulf War and some of the other wars, you're going to meet a lot of veterans who have experienced combat and suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. By way of background, I was raised in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee. I'm the fourth oldest of 10 kids. My father was a World War II veteran who landed on D-Day, on Normandy Beach in D-Day. My older brother was a very, very physical person. He's a rugby player, iron worker, great football player, and he was a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division. I grew up more of a bookworm, had dreams of being an explorer or a reporter for National Geographic, and had always had my nose in geographic, looking at the fascinating cultures of Africa and Asia and all of the Maasai warriors and that sort of thing. So at the age of 19, right after high school, I was drafted into the military and did my training for the infantry in Fort Polk, Louisiana. My interest before I went to school, I played a lot of sports, played baseball, basketball, football, but always enjoyed the outdoors and grew up along the Menominee River, and as a child spent a lot of time in the woods with friends building forts and doing the Mark Twain thing and rafts on the river and fishing and catching frogs and turtles, and just very much enjoyed the outdoors. I would have to say I was a poor candidate for the infantry because I had a deep respect and love and joy of being in the outdoors. So when I was sent to Vietnam, amid all the controversy, I'm not sure if you know the background on the radical anti-war movement in Madison. Very, very violent, a lot of tear gas, a lot of National Guard troops on the campus. I was actually there in 1969 before I left for the military when the Armstrong brothers and two other guys blew up the physics building. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and the bars on State Street had just closed, and I was with my girlfriend saying goodnight to her at Chadbourne Hall, and we heard this huge explosion. And it wasn't until the following morning, excuse me, that I read in the paper that the physics building had been blown up because it housed the ROTC Math Center. And in that explosion, a researcher was killed. He was trying to finish up his research before he left on vacation with his family. And that began the end of the anti-war movement as it had been popular at the time. So anyways, I was sent over to Vietnam, assigned to the 1st Air Cavalry Division, and as an infantry soldier, and spent all of my time in the jungles along the Cambodian border. And the difference between being in the jungle and being in the open, where the guys fought in the rice paddies and out in the open, is we had to live by very, very stealth behavior. So in other words, we spoke in whispers, we spoke with hand signs. If you wanted somebody to get down because you saw something, you would pat your hands for them to get down. You would stop people. You would say, move on. Everything with your hands or whispers. Nothing on us could rattle. Nothing on us could reflect sun. So, and anything that had metal was wrapped in electric tape. We didn't carry radios except for our military radios. The absolute noise discipline was critical. But we were also hyper vigilant. So you can imagine if you walk through the woods, you're looking for anything that might be out of the ordinary, anything that might move, anything that might be a different color, anything that might smell different, anything that was not supposed to be there, especially tripwires or things that might indicate that you're walking into a booby trap. But you would also be aware of the trees that were cut down and the size of the trees. For example, a relatively small 3 or 4 inch diameter tree, 3 or 4 of them cut down, might say that you're walking into a temporary position that the North Vietnamese or the Viet Cong had built as a rest station. But if you started to run into trees in 6 inch, 12 inch, 14 inch diameters, and many of them cut down, you could be fairly guaranteed that you're walking into a very well fortified bunker complex. So it was living in stealth all the time, and observance, what we would come to know as hypervigilance, looking, and the panorama of your eyes when your brain focused on it, and you could actually do this sitting in your chair. Typically, you're focused on a fairly small frame of reference in front of you, but if you open your eyes and focus, you can see really to your sides, at least movement and colors. I can do that now, and I can see out the window that cars are passing by. So you would remain in that hyper-vigilant state all of the time. And in the jungle, it gets dark very early. So by 6 o'clock at night, we were sleeping and would sleep until it got light out, because we didn't move at nighttime unless absolutely necessary. So believe it or not, I slept very well in the jungle. And this is something that I still don't understand completely. My body would sleep perfectly well. I would wake up in the morning completely refreshed, but my mind would not go to sleep. I could hear everything that was going on around me. I could hear any movement. I could hear animals. I could hear the soldier that would be coming long before he got to me to wake me up for my turn at guard duty. So it was almost a detachment of the mind from the body, where the body could easily sleep and restore itself, but the mind was hypervigilant 24 hours a day. So during this time period, there were many different combat events that would take place. Some of them long-standing that would last for days. Some of them that were just hit and run things that would last for a couple of minutes. But either way, there were very intense moments for this. So if I were to go back and in my upbringing, the influences on me, I was raised in a family of 10, very strict Catholic, with all of the 10 Commandments and all of those sorts of things, and the belief in God. And we went to church 6 days a week. So I had a very strict upbringing regarding how you deal with other human beings, how you treat them. Thou shalt not kill. That's that whole sort of thing. I also had a relatively good reference to how to socially behave. Wauwatosa is the city of homes. It was a fairly safe place to live. You know, the old Boy Scout, help the old lady across the street, all that sort of thing. So those influences on me came under radical change when we started using weapons to actually kill people. And the weapons we were using were extraordinarily savage and deadly, from napalm to the heavy machine guns to hand grenades. I don't know if you can see the 2 photos that I sent that are posted on the front. Are they visible, Jeff?
Yes, they are.
If you look on the left side, the photo on the left is when I first arrived in Vietnam, and I'm in a fighting position on top of a mountain right on the Cambodian border. And you can see the back end of a heavy M60 machine gun. The little canisters on the left side, they look like little black cardboard boxes. Those are all canisters with hand grenades in them. There's magazines of ammunition for the M16. You'll see that standing up with a grenade launcher underneath it. I have Claymore mines. The table that I'm actually eating off of is a box of hand grenades. Now that's a radical difference from the table we had at home. So it was a matter in time of getting used to the environment, getting used to what you were doing, and really kind of accepting it. Now, it would be nice to say that when we left before war, there was all of the glory, all the patriotism, all of the John Philip Sousa marching songs and the beautiful dress uniform, and all of these things were given to us, and our family was proud and the country was proud, and you're going off to serve your country. Well, by the time you get into that environment when you're at war, we weren't there saving America. We weren't there with any great patriotic ideas. We were there just living the life that we could see that was in our influence, which would be the guys I was with. I did not want to die, and I didn't not want to be responsible for any of them dying or being injured. That was our primary goal. But at warfare, when you're involved in taking the lives of other people, one of the most critical aspects is, do you believe in the mission? Do you believe in the mission of going to Iraq? Do you believe in the mission of fighting Hitler? Do you believe in the mission of fighting Stalin? Do you believe in the mission of fighting the North Koreans? If you don't believe in the mission, the things you're doing in warfare will haunt you for the rest of your life. If you believe in the mission, then you at least have something in your mind that balances, that gives you something to say that this is the reason I had to do it. I didn't want to do it, but this is what we had to do. And I think still the best example that I know of the people that I have met who have gone to war was, we have to stop Hitler. I've never heard anybody in World War II who didn't say one of two things: we have to stop Hitler, we have to stop the Japanese. Very seldom will you hear a Vietnam veteran say, we had to stop Ho Chi Minh. I never heard that come out, nor did we ever believe that. So just in being there, when we were out in the jungle, we were with very, very remote people, the Montagnards, and people that were just subsistence livers, that what they were doing every day, they could not have cared what the politics in Hanoi was. They couldn't have cared if they were communist or if they were under a democracy. It didn't matter to them, because they were struggling just to get food to feed their families every day, or trying to find firewood to cook their meals, something to build shelters with. So it was hard for us to, at least for me and the guys that I was with, to see that we were really engaging these people in anything that was actually going to make their lives better or worse. So a lot of us just didn't have that sense of belief in the missions. Now, the military would have you believe that you're not supposed to think about that. It's not your job to think, it's your job to do. You keep your eyes and your mouth shut, keep your ears open. I don't know if we've lost the link, but if you guys can still see me, or hear me, but my screen has gone black. Am I still with you? Are we still on? DJ, maybe you better call me on the phone and let me know what's actually happening. Can anyone hear me there? Well, I'm going to keep talking. Maybe what I was saying didn't interest you. You guys just cut me off, but you're going to have to stick with this for the next hour. So I'll try and keep up with where I was going. So belief in the mission was a very important thing, but at the same time, as a 19-year-old in combat and seeing the carnage and the savagery of war and seeing the people, my buddies that were affected by the war, and seeing the people we had killed, and to see innocent civilians that were killed, you didn't have time to stop and mourn. You didn't have time to stop and be angry, because anytime the battle would stop, it could start up at any time again. There was no time sequence. The whole element of time really disappeared. So even though the machine guns or a battle might stop or a firefight might start, it could start up again any time. So we didn't have built-in psychiatrists that were telling us, okay, now you should be more